Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay. What's up, members of the Rob Corps? You know, I thought about making you guys wait like weeks for the conclusion of Spawn Armageddon for no other reason than the fact that I could. I even did a poll on Twitter. I was like, should I make you guys wait or should I cover it now? And it was kind of crazy. Like almost half of you guys were like, just make us wait. And I was like, what? I was like, well, that's not how this was supposed to go. You were supposed to like be like, no, we need it now. And then, you know, like post gifts, but you guys didn't. So that was a little bit disappointing, but we are here covering the conclusion of Spawn Armageddon. And as we know, Spawn up to this issue has basically destroyed all life on Earth with the exception of God and Satan, right? They're the only two individuals left. Everything else is essentially dead. And that's kind of the crazy thing about this, because when all this goes down, you've got God and Satan who are almost kind of like taken by surprise. Like Spawn, the protector of humanity, has basically eradicated all beings in existence from the face of the earth. It really is just a dead, desolate world, right? All life, all gone. There's just nothing here. Initially, the thought is that like Spawn was crying over what it is that he'd done, only for us to find out that Spawn's actually laughing. And the reason why is because he's actually mocking God and Satan. He's like, well, you guys had this plan going on for thousands of years, right? You created people, and then people started divvying up into different groups, good guys and bad guys. Some of them went to Satan, some of them went to God, and this was all supposed to go into some great big huge grand battle, you know, some grand conflict that the two of you guys are going to fight for however long it was going to be to determine which of you is truly the strongest. And I brought the whole thing to an end like that, you know. So like, what does this say about like you guys? This is all just one big joke. It's literally giving God and Satan a hard time. And so in response to that, they kind of ask the question, like, you're just a hell spawn, right? Like you're essentially just kind of like a soldier of hell. How did you manage to pull all this off? You know, and basically like the mother of creation pops up and says like, he's what I made him to be. Following that, God gets pissed. God's like, you B-word. Basically, you know, this is the friendly stuff. If you want to see the uncensored videos, go to patreon.com/comicsexplained. That's where you get all the uncensored stuff like Punisher Max that we're covering, which is fun and awesome and totally needs to be uncensored. But nonetheless, you know, from there, when the mother of creation is sort of chastised by God and Satan, right? Like, you can't do this. Of course, the mother of creation freaks out, says, you know, I do what I will. And then Spawn says, there's actually something that you can do for me. And when the mother of creation asks what it is, Spawn says, these two kids look too much like Wanda. Change them into their true forms. I want to see what they truly look like. And that's when we see what God and Satan actually really look like in the Spawn universe. They're naked, but they don't have any junk. So I guess that's okay. Would God and Satan have genitalia? That really is, you know, we ask the serious questions here at Comics Explained. We ask the hard-hitting questions here, but nonetheless, you know, from there, it's almost kind of like their desire to really kind of instigate a conflict with Spawn, right? And Spawn was warned by the mother of creation, understand, by having them in these childlike forms, it curbs their desire for like death and destruction and all those different things. By turning them back into their regular forms, they will have a level of death and destruction that you're not quite ready for. They will have a level of power that you could challenge, but that you're not really capable of going toe-to-toe with at the moment. It would simply just take time. And Spawn's response is, whatever, man. Like, if these guys really believe that they have what it takes to take me out, then let them do their worst. And so following that, they basically blast Spawn, and Spawn gets taken out, right? You know, he says, it is finished. Spawn is essentially destroyed, right? So this great big huge climactic battle that's been building up between Spawn and like God and Satan happens with a quickness, and that's basically it. And that's when the mother of creation asks, are you content now? Are you happy now? That was the last of the human race. These beings that you had the power to create, you destroyed, right? That's all you guys are good for, is just destroying things. And that therein is the very nature of the mother of creation's disappointment with her creation of God and Satan. All they do is destroy. And it's why she considered them to be failures. And so for a moment, there's almost kind of like this sort of reprieve where Satan of all people is kind of like, man, like, you know, where God's like, is this what we've come to? And Satan's kind of like, yeah, man, maybe we should kind of rethink things. And then immediately God turns on Satan and says, this is your fault. And that's when everything kind of devolves right back down to where it was before. God created humanity, and humanity were basically oblivious to everything around them, right? They just kind of existed. They had no knowledge of good and evil. And then Satan, presented Eve with the apple of the knowledge of good and evil. She consumed it and then gave it to Adam, and then Adam consumed it, and then they had knowledge of good and evil. And free will is what came from that. And so following that, they basically bent to their base desires. And that's where the argument gets intriguing, right? Because if all Satan did was basically say, here's knowledge of good and evil, then did Satan really do anything to make humanity evil? Or did he give humanity the ability to choose which side it wanted, and humanity chose to become evil? Like humanity chose that role. They bent to their inherent desires. It's kind of intriguing there, because when it comes to good and evil, I remember learning this lesson in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic of all games, that the path to goodness is usually much, much harder than the path to evil. Now, the path to evil is more fun. During Knights of the Old Republic, I was a dick. Like I was using my force powers on everyone. I was just like I remember there was this one chick on Tatooine. She's like, we really need this raid plate, and like, can you please? And I was like, give me that. And I was like, thank you. I was like, what is it? I said, my need is greater than yours, and just took it. I was like, I was a terrible person. Everybody played the dark side first. And don't even give me any of that nonsense about how you play the light side first. You didn't. You played the dark side first. Nobody chooses the light side. Jedi suck. But nonetheless, it's kind of fun here. It's kind of crazy because following this, God and Satan basically just kind of devolved down into this full-on battle with each other. And while that's happening, Spawn had essentially been saved by the mother of creation. And what she basically tells him here is, this is the nature of God and Satan. They will fight for all eternity, right? They're evenly matched and they are immortal. They're never going to be able to overcome the other. And that's kind of the nature of good and evil. And that's one of the cool things about this, right? Because you cannot have one without the other. You cannot have goodness without the antithesis in the form of evil, because it's only with evil that understanding the value of goodness comes into play. And so because of that, Spawn is really kind of like, what do we do here at this point, right? I mean, the earth is all devoid of life. There's nothing here anymore. Like, what do we do? And the mother of creation says, you can recreate everything, right? This earth is basically gone. This earth is gone and done now. It's the territory of God and Satan. They're going to fight on it forever, right? As long as they believe humanity's been destroyed, they're just going to fight against each other forever and ever and ever, and never really overcome the other, right? It's just what's going to happen until the end of time, or until they destroy their world, or whatever the case is. But you, Al Simmons, have the ability to recreate. You have the ability to give birth to everything. And so this is really, and kind of a misnomer from the last video, this is really the full totality of divine Spawn's power, because using the help of the mother of creation, Spawn essentially recreates all existence. Spawn literally recreates the earth and all humanity in it. But the funny thing about this is that instead of stripping them of their knowledge of the end of days, of the apocalypse, he grants them that information. Because what it does is it gives humanity the knowledge, the absolute, true, and undeniable knowledge that there is something out there greater than themselves. And it's only ever when humanity as a whole is presented with a threat that one person or one country or civilization cannot overcome on its own that people usually work together in order to quell that threat. It may be a temporary thing, but what this means here is that in order for humanity to truly achieve great things, you have to have a coming together of civilization as a whole. Everyone who's alive here remembers the four horsemen walking the earth, right? They remember pestilence and death and famine and war walking the face of the planet. All the things they went through, they remember what it meant to die. They remember what it meant to become the soldiers of hell and the soldiers of heaven. They recall their experiences with all of these things. And so what this means is that, one, when Al Simmons is presented with the notion of, are you going to allow heaven and hell to still have access to this? He immediately says, no. Heaven and hell basically are cut off to earth. They can never enter earth. They can never leave earth. They can have no involvement with humanity in any form or fashion. Following that, the question is, what are you going to do, right? Because at the moment, Spawn is God, right? That's what he is now. What are you going to do with all this power, Spawn? And that's when he says, I initially came back for Wanda, right? This is all going full circle. I came back for Wanda. I made that bargain with Malboja. I chose to be a Hellspawn because I wanted to have Wanda back. I wanted her in my life, and I would do whatever I needed to do in order to make that happen. And this is where things get kind of cool, right? This is how you tell the difference between a guy who can like get done and a guy who's just like, man, I really hope things go my way. Spawn's just like, okay, so here's my situation. Right now, Wanda thought I was dead, but now she knows that I'm alive. But she married Terry after she believed that I was dead, and then like they kind of did their whole thing together. So like, sorry about your luck, Terry. I'm taking my girl back. That's basically what this is. He's like, I want to be reborn as Al Simmons, because at the end of the day, Wanda loves Terry. Sure, she loves him, but she'll never love him as much as she loves me. So like, Mr. Steal Your Girl is back. I guess not really steal your girl. Mr. Steal Your Girl back, steal his girl back, I guess is what it is. But nonetheless, Spawn basically rolls up and says like, I'm going home, right? Like, I do not want this power of God. Take this away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with this. I just want to go back and be a normal man. Now, initially, the mother of creation goes to kind of issue a warning, but Spawn is like, there is no more Spawn. I don't want to hear anything about this. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I am just gonna go home. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.